Hello, everybody. It's Max with Crypto Talk. Now, we have talked about the likes of XRP providing that on demand liquidity. With the central banks facing, let's face it, a liquidity crisis here soon, how does specifically Ripple's XRP solve that liquidity crisis? Without further ado, let's jump into today's XRP coverage. And as you can see right here, again, shout out to Crypto Lulu for the great clips, content, and so on. But he breaks it down in roughly 40 seconds, and if anything, it's pretty darn specific. And I like how he basically shared this and so on. On top of that, we have some other footage that we're going to get into. Believe it or not, we actually have a Michael Saylor particular interview, I should say, in regards to what he has to say for the likes of XRP and so on. But if anything, it's going to be a great video. Stay tuned. We'll come right back here shortly to get more into it. Just going to full screen this right now, and here we go.
You've got countries like Russia saying we're no longer accepting any currency except the ruble. We don't take the dollar anymore. We're not acknowledging the dollar. And of course, because Russia is part of the BRICS nations, and that includes a lot more than just Russia and big countries too. All of those could follow suit and say we want to be paid in our own currency. Now, if the banks don't have that currency in their Nostro account, they can't pay for these services. The US can't get oil. The US can't get this. The whole world can't get this, and it causes major disruption. So what you need is a currency in between, in this pool of cash, this pool of currency, this on-demand liquidity, where different central banks can just pick that XRP out, settle their transaction, and put it back. You've got countries like...
So it's a great breakdown, to say the least. Of course, once again from Crypto Lulu, explaining how XRP solves the liquidity crisis, basically in 40 seconds. And I love this particular info he has for us. A little bit more from him. So you're going to see basically right here in this particular round table, I should say round table, but panel discussion. I know in this particular one, it mentions, that he knows RippleNet doesn't use XRP, but that is not the main point of this. The main point is what you see right here. For instance, Bank of America waits on sideline until Ripple versus SEC case settles, right? Bank of America is just doing that. They're waiting on the sideline to basically start using that on-demand liquidity. Again, a little bit more in regards to today's particular topic of on-demand liquidity and what that entails in regards to XRP and so on. So this particular one is about 2 minutes and 17 seconds. We'll come back more for some commentary after this particular one is done.
Bank of America is waiting till the end of the SEC lawsuit before they start leveraging the XRPL for cross-border payments. You did a fantastic video, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, breaking down many of the central banks around the world that are not only gearing up, but ready. So if you could just list a few of the largest central banks on the planet that are ready to make this ISO migration, and just tell our listeners why it's necessary to make that shift. If you don't shift into ISO protocols, what's going to happen to these banks?
So I don't have a list to mind. It was quite long and overwhelmingly so that I didn't even memorize it, even though I should have. Bank of America. The reason Bank of America is significant is because they've been a partner of Ripple's for a while. So they've been using something called Ripple for a while, just as many other institutions have, central banks have been doing. And so the common argument there is, why isn't the price going up if they're using it? And this is the big thing that everyone's missing, is that basically RippleNet is a system that banks can work on to send payments, send normal fiat payments. So if I want to pay pounds to Australian dollars or Canadian dollars, I can do that on RippleNet, and it doesn't affect the XRP price because it doesn't use XRP, right? And so everyone uses that as an argument against me. However, what they don't understand is that when you're just using RippleNet, you're not utilizing on-demand liquidity. And the secret source of the XRP ledger is on-demand liquidity. On-demand liquidity is what uses XRP. So again, when you see that news, when companies say, we're not using XRP, we're not using XRP, we're using RippleNet, and you go, wait, but what happens when this ISO thing comes into play and you're actually having to convert payments and settle payments from blockchain environments through the messaging bus, which is a whole other conversation, to integrate then with the messaging system and settle blockchain payments? You've got to use the ODL. You literally have to. And so you have to move away from RippleNet. Yeah, it's fascinating to me. The thing I hear about a lot of people, when they come up with something like that, that XRP is not used in RippleNet, I know they're right, and they are right. Just a little bit more digging, and they would truly get to where they were trying to get to with that. But a lot of people give up right at the end.
All right, yeah, that is something that's been brought up a few times. I don't know if it was on our live show, but I've had a few people basically mention that. I just love the way Crypto Lulu, does these particular outlines. And if anything, we're glad to provide you these particular clips and so on. We'll always give shout outs to those who provide the original content and so on. Again, guys, give him a follow.
Bank of America is waiting till
he definitely deserves it, to say the least. All right, a little bit more in regards to our particular coverage. There's another person that we cover here quite often because he has great highlights and so on. And that's basically from the likes of Coach JV. Follow him at _Coach JV. And if anything, listen to this particular one. It gives you a broader perspective. It says specifically, breaking news, pushing closer to the Great Reset. The global financial system is on the verge of collapse. The reality is they have the new system waiting. It says, for instance, XRP's blockchain. This was calculated and thought out. And for instance, like we see right here, FX swap debt, a $80 trillion blind spot, global regulator says. And again, basically here at CTM, we mentioned some of these key things before, right? When it comes to the likes of, Ripple's XRP taking on that particular debt, that's how a lot of the market cap, which will contribute to the overall global market cap, will explode. I've seen you guys, and we've had a great reception on that one particular video where it says, in regards to the triple X's, right? XRP, XTC, XLM, how it specifically mentions how that will do a supernatural moonshot. This is how we get to some of this. And if anything, listen to what Coach JV has to state in regards to another thing that we covered here at CTM before, and that is we'll get to the point where people will go swipe, for instance, their debit cards, so on and so forth, even their credit cards, right? And not even realize that it's tied into crypto. This is a minute 45 seconds, and then we'll come right back.
This is major breaking news in the global financial system. As everybody looks over here at FTX collapse, which was catastrophic for the crypto industry, but is small and marginal compared to what's going on in the global financial industry. FX swap debt at 80 trillion blind spot, global regulators say. The Bank of International Settlements announced the FX swaps have over 80 trillion in hidden debt. This is just inching us closer and closer to our new monetary system. This is showing us with FTX collapse, liquidity crisis, Celsius collapse, liquidity crisis, all these crypto firms going to be collapsing because of the liquidity crisis. They were all lending to each other, borrowing from each other. Well, globally in the financial system, everybody's over leveraged. And again, I keep preaching the same word. What fixes this? Distributed ledger technology, liquidity, money moving at the speed of light, an asset-backed currency in a digital currency type of way to rebalance out the system. We switched into industrial with gas, oil, factories, using your hands, factory workers, industry. And now we're moving into a brand new era, digital, AI, Web3, zero carbon, distributed ledger technology, on-demand liquidity, and before you know it, people will be using cryptocurrency without even knowing it at their local bank. So you need to pay attention to what's going on, family. These types of things can be a domino and a great sign that the new financial system is here. Warriors, rise!
All right, so shout out, of course, to Coach JV for providing that. Think about this for a second, and I'll come back in the frame for this particular one, and that is this. For instance, you heard us basically mention this, I believe, and it was in the last XRP video, for instance. You heard various different interviews and so on. Specifically, I think it was to the likes of Crypto Lulu, where it mentions specifically, during the days of the great gold rush and so on, it wasn't necessarily the people were the mining the gold, the workers, right? It was the guys who provided, right, the tools, the picks, the shovels, and so on. when it comes to Ripple's XRP, they are literally setting the railways down, if you will. You know, you always heard this expressed term basically used, and that is, you know, the train is about to leave the station. Well, XRP may be leaving the station soon, right? But if anything, they already laid down the railways. And if anything, those railways are very efficient, to say the least. All right, a little bit more in regards to our particular coverage here at CTN. I'm going to basically come back out of the frame for just a brief moment. And that is this particular interview with the likes of Michael Saylor. You know, I get it. He's like a Bitcoin maxi and so on. But if anything, listen to his perspective, right? He doesn't seem like he's a fan of XRP. If anything, he does have some good points. And of course, you know, we'll have some more in regards to the commentary of just, you know, his particular perspective. If anything, let's listen to it for a brief moment, and then we'll come back here shortly to go over a few more things that we have for you today in regards to our XRP coverage.
Representing.
All right, here we go.
The Eaton here, the lawyer representing Ripple. What are your thoughts about what's going on with Ripple and how he is handling the Ripple case?
Ripple's an unregistered security. It's pretty obvious. There's a company. The company owns a bunch of it. They sell it to the general public, but they never took the company public. There's no disclosures, right? So the SEC's position is you're selling an unregistered security. It's a crypto token, right? Just like Ethereum is an unregistered security. It's controlled by a few people in the Ethereum Foundation and Consensus.
Fair. Then here's
just
a
like
question.
FTT, just like Solana.
Perfect. But here's a follow-up on that,
They're all
Michael.
unregistered securities.
Here's a follow-up on that.
Right.
I don't own a single Ripple, just so we know. So full
Yeah.
disclaimer, I'm not a Ripple guy. But if both of them are unregistered, why target Ripple and not target Ethereum the way he is targeting Ripple? And by the way, this is coming from a guy that owns Ethereum, not Ripple.
Yeah, I think the best thing for the world would be if the SEC pretty much shut down all of it. It's all unethical, right? I mean, the Bitcoin position would be Bitcoin is an ethical commodity. All of these other altcoins are unregistered securities. They're all just equity tokens issued by a company in order to get around going public, and they're committing securities fraud.
Ethereum included.
Of course, especially Ethereum. You know, Ethereum's got $20 billion of ETH token locked up in the staking contract right now, and there's a couple of people that may or may not give it back to you ever. Now, isn't that the definition of investment contract? If a bank took $20 billion of your assets, froze the window and said you can't have your money back ever, maybe in the year 2024, we're not sure. We're just going to keep it. We may actually give you interest on it. We may take it all. We may slash it.
All right, there is the more I should say of the in-depth full-length interview. My key thing is this, all right, and that is basically, you know, for instance, the gentleman that you see on the left side, I think you guys know who he is. But anyway, basically, you know, he's like, I don't own any Ethereum, right? Or not Ethereum. I don't own any XRP. This is coming from an Ethereum guy. It's like, you could totally tell that some of these guys simply haven't done their research. Now I get it, you know. Michael Saylor is obviously a Bitcoin maxi and so on. At least he mentioned from the perspective of why doesn't the SEC go after, for instance, the likes of Ethereum, some of these other ones. In reality, they're not going to go after it, you know, every single one of them. I think obviously ETH is definitely next. But my key takeaway is, again, it's like I don't think either one of them, maybe Michael Saylor, I don't know, but I don't think they understand the real true utility behind it. And if anything, there's a sense of value behind a lot of the blockchain technology for these various cryptos and so on. All right, I'm going to come, or I should say, I'm going to bring up, another one I want to share with you guys. And that is this one right here. Shout out to @RizXRP. We have covered him before. Highly recommend you follow him. It says the biggest risk factor in XRP is the government itself. And On this particular one, it's 2 minutes and 17 seconds, but it gives you, again, another perspective of the reality of what is going on, right? Specifically speaking, when it comes to the government and XRP itself. This one's about 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Again, we'll come back for some more commentary here soon.
Although it is not completely it. Yes, people don't want to get wrecked, but the reason that there's a big fight here is because there's actual use case utility, and I believe you could make a quite good argument that price is being driven by that utility and not by speculation. But keep listening.
You think about, I know you're investors, you think about risk, categories of risk and counting them out. The biggest risk associated with Ripple is the government itself.
Boom. Boy, finally someone set it aside from a YouTuber, right? The biggest risk is the government itself. And it's important to remember, as much as that may scare you and make the hair stand up on the back of your neck, I'll say this. That's why I have said so many times on this channel, that's why they have pursued the adoption around the world as if they already lost the case. Brad Garlinghouse said that. And the reason for that, I have said over and over and over again, is because it puts pressure and incentive on the United States government that the rest of the world already thinks and understands XRP to be money. They don't think it, they've said it. Singapore, UAE, Switzerland, there's so many other places, Japan. So what happens here in a decision affects the United States, not the rest of the world. And that is a very, very key important point to understand, that the U.S. would be handicapping itself from the practical use case of this asset.
It's not fraud or misconduct or the market reception to XRP or anything. It's the government is the risk factor. That's not how it's supposed to be. And what's weird, and so this sort of gets to your question, what's weird is everybody in crypto, you know this, I know this, everybody knows it. Of the 22,000 tokens, some of them are out and out frauds where the people just issued a token, took the money and split.
Yeah, they definitely did take the money and split. Think of all the ones out there, right? I'm not talking about the ISOs. I'm talking about a lot of, what you've seen with meme tokens, right? Don't get me wrong, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, those are great meme tokens. Those are like, the Cokes and Pepsis, if you will. Stick with the originals if you're going to go with it. But, these other ones that just were clearly, rug pulls, like, Suzuki Inu, Squid Game, Galaxy Snake, Ninja Floki, stuff like that. It's just, let's face it, that's part of the big list, to say the least. All right, a little bit more. This is the last one, and it says why you will never need to sell any of your XRP. We talked about this kind of before, right, in regards to staking. But listen to this from, again, Crypto Lulu addressing his panel. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up shortly after that. This one's about 1 minute, and then we'll come right back.
Take your ledger, your cold storage wallet. This is somewhat symbolic. You might not actually take it, but anyway, you take it into BlackRock and you say, hey, I got 200,000 XRP, whatever you have. And they go, geez, 200,000, really? You've got more than we have. You've got more than we were allocated by the IMF. And you go, yeah, do you want to use it to grow your portfolio? I'll let you have custody of it if you give me some interest. So every month goes on. We're hearing rumors of 7 to 12% interest, probably higher if you've got more money or a higher portfolio value. You can go in there anytime, get foot rubs, lemonade, whatever you want. You get the boss of BlackRock to give it to you as well. This is the kind of position we'll be in, and they'll be giving you CBDC at the time, or whatever you agree in your contract with them. They'll be giving you that as an interest monthly, and guess what? You haven't touched a single token. Take your ledger, your cold storage wallet. This is
like how you mentioned this, and you haven't basically sold a single token, or you haven't used a single token. It's very well put, to say the least. I definitely liked hearing that specifically. And if anything, you just come back into the frames just a moment. Here Here we go. Hold on a second. And if anything, what I was going to mention is, sorry, I was adjusting some of the screen on that one. It's just that, think about this, the staking. So for instance, I mentioned here before SCTN, never marry your crypto, right? But I think obviously XRP is the exception to that rule. Like right now, as I pull it up, for instance, I'm looking at my calculator, right? And some people, I guess this is just basic math. I don't really have to use my calculator, but we'll just throw out a particular scenario, right? So, I realize some people, of course, have more XRP than this. Some people don't. I'm not saying this is my amount of XRP and so on, but for instance, let's say you only had 1,000 XRP, right? And this thing goes up to 10,000, which a lot of people even have higher than that. I'm talking about $10,000 per XRP. Okay. So if anything, that's like $10 million, right? So at roughly, he mentioned what, 15%? Let's just say it was 10%. I'm looking at it from the perspective of, we got to base it on APR, right? So he mentions monthly and so on. So I'm timesing it by, for instance, 0.10, which is 10%. And that right there, again, it's just basic math, right? So, that's $1 million a year. You know what I mean? So divided by, of course, 12 months in a year, that's $83,333, right? That's more than not too shabby. Again, this is part of the generational wealth that we're talking about here. So, again, some people might not be comfortable with the whole idea of, for instance, putting their XRP in the likes of, BlackRock's in BlackRock's custody, is Crypto Lulu basically mentioned and so on. But of course, there are going to be certain contracts to be set up and so on. There's a lot of things that are going to happen in the future. I'm sure there will also be other mechanisms or other sites, if you will, where maybe an app. You never know, right? In which you can connect just that to the likes of, he obviously used the example of BlackRock, right? The world's largest asset custodian. Doesn't necessarily mean it would be specifically them. But if anything, there'll be other ones, right? In which, just like he mentions, they didn't receive enough in regards to IMF and so on. And if anything, they want to load up on their particular position. And if anything, think about this, right? Like banks, as we speak, the traditional finance. So, somebody wins the Powerball, for crying out loud, right? Let's say, a guy wins, I think it's $100 million here in the United States. If you win $100 million, you get to keep, after taxes, $33,333,333.33. So I'm just going to use that example. Again, it doesn't make sense to me, the people who want to spend against the principal. Why not just earn interest on it? I get it from the whole perspective of, from traditional banks and so on, they're only going to give you a little bit. But again, even if crypto didn't exist, I would still want to earn some kind of form of interest on it instead of going against the principal, right? And so the likes of XRP, it paid a yield of a 10 to 15%, or maybe even higher, depending on how long you decide to lock it up. These are all different scenarios, of course, way out there for the future and so on. So again, I personally would never marry, like I mentioned, a crypto, but I'm definitely going to marry XRP. So thanks for watching today's XRP video. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the various clips and the content that we continuously provide you here at CTN. Check out the live show, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, every single day of the week. Thanks again for watching. You all have a blessed day, and we'll see you on the next one.